My name is Sohaib Ahmed, and I put aside pre-med to reimagine education. So, here we are a bit after lunch. I hope the food didn't totally put you to sleep, but if it did, here's a wake-up call. Online education sucks. And not because of its content or its instructors or its technological sophistication, but because of its student retention rates. Can you guess what percentage of people actually complete a given online course? 80%? Nope. All right, that's high. I asked one of our online platform developers this question a couple of days ago, and he gave me a very reasonable, respectable response. 30 to 40%. Still too high. What's the actual figure? 12%. Yeah, exactly. And it isn't that people don't enroll either. On average, 1 out of 3 people have taken an online course. They show up, and they're excited. But after taking away a few bold messages and watching a couple of lecture videos for a couple of weeks, poof, they're gone. It's magic, it's not the awesome kind. Kind of reminds me of a very 60s saying, for those of us who can remember that time, although I guess I don't because I was born in the 90s. People turn on, tune in, and drop out. Let's visualize this dropout rate for a moment, and just so we can see things more clearly. Let's pretend that this talk is a 2-month course that's starting today. Can you guess how many people would finish it? Just the front 2 rows. And often it gets even worse. Despite solid enrollment, we don't even hit 12% completion rate. The worst case that I've come across is that of Chalmers University of Technology. It had 18,600 people enroll in 2 of its online courses. That's pretty good, seemingly, until you discover that only 4% of students completed one course and only 2% completed the other. Picture this. After listening to me talk for a little bit, and please don't do this, otherwise I might get a little bit scarred. You seated here, suddenly get up and leave. Damn. That's one hell of a problem, isn't it? So, what's going on? Why is this happening? If the typical completion rate of an online course looks like what again? 12%, yeah. Then are we just not ready for online education yet? One would think we live in an age ideally suited to it. I mean, think about it. We can communicate with anyone across the globe near instantly. We can stream Netflix videos in seconds, have Uber Eats deliver coffee in minutes, and most of us like that convenience. So that kind of shows us technology isn't lacking and adoption isn't absent. So what's the issue? Everything is digitized, knowledge included. So you'd think we'd be able to distribute education to millions of people at a time. And you'd be right, we can distribute education to millions of people. Yes, we can put education online. Yes, we can get people to enroll in it. We can have a lecture video, some written content, and a quiz, string it all together, and we have a course. Put it online, and millions can and often will access it. Bam, we have online education, right? Well, that's what a lot of people think, but there's a flawed assumption here. Putting lecture videos online isn't the same thing as online education, just as having given a lecture doesn't mean that you've actually taught people. Reaching people isn't the same thing as teaching people. The fact that enrollment does not equal education is pretty obvious when you think back to teaching in person. You've probably taught somebody at some point. At worst, you've taught yourself at least. If you really want someone to learn, does it suffice to just chuck a book at their head and ask them to just go through it? Maybe that's enough for some particularly disciplined students, but not for the most of us, right? That's why first-year U of T students suffer GPA hits. That's why otherwise excellent students struggle when it comes down to the MCAT. That's why foreign doctors practice at their art, nevertheless feel at a loss when they try to study for one of Canada's medical licensing exams. So, in other words, to really stay committed, the average student needs monitoring, motivation, management, and mentoring. And online education offers next to none of that. Curriculum developers and institutions seem to be under the assumption that prettier videos, better taught by more qualified teachers, with practice questions at the end, and a discussion board is good enough, that it'll get educating done. But that's not how you learn. That's not enough. In fact, I'd even argue that if one of the best teachers, Socrates himself, was given a discussion on the Socratic dialogue in a white-collared shirt with a crisp 1080p video and questions post video, people would still turn on, tune in, and drop out if we didn't monitor, motivate, manage, or mentor them. Think about it, right? So, why do people need this level of engagement to succeed? People need this level of engagement to succeed because, above all else, people learn best through interaction. Interaction. Why the emphasis there? Well, what does the word inter mean? Inter means between. And so necessarily, interaction must be an action between two individuals. That's what a dialogue is. Di means two, right? And that kind of dialogical situation is completely missing from online education. In every single instance of education online, and I use this word education online to differentiate between what we currently have, which is just stuff online, and what we should have, which is actual online education. Every instance of education online currently in existence is either a monologue, you're being talked at, or a highly constrained dialogue. Most courses don't have one-on-one student interaction online. Others, like Harvard Business Online, have teachers who can call on their students in real time, but even that isn't enough. Instead of a dialogue, which is an actual interactive exchange, in education online, you have a dialogue, which literally means death of words if you combine Greek and English, and if you're in a funny mood, it literally means death of people if you combine English and Urdu. Log die. Right? At this point, we have to think about this. If online education is not interactive or dialogical, then what really is? Games. That's the first thing that comes to your mind. Has anybody played Rainbow Siege, by the way? No? Yeah? Yeah. It's funny, I played Rainbow Siege a lot. I've played Rainbow Siege for 30 hours straight. Within it, you actually have a mic and you can use that to communicate to other people. In fact, your win, or like how much you win, actually goes dramatically up if you're communicating with your teammates. What else is interactive and or dialogical? Conversations, obviously, right? What else? Facebook. You like, love, message, and post, right? And if done correctly, in-person classes. In in-person classes, you actually talk to your professor. And if you've got a good professor, they will actually, if you've got a good professor, they will actually do much more than that. They'll actually recapture your attention the moment you lose it by asking you a question. What will they do again? Recapture your attention. How? By asking you a question. When? When it wavers. Right? In fact, they might even go a bit further than that, and they might ask you a very specific question, and they might build a relationship with you, right? And what's a relationship? This interpersonal, emotional, dialogical thing, right? That helps you feel more connected and more accountable. That is what's missing a little bit. And so this specific thing, this relationship, this dialogue, is what we call true educational resonance, right? It is this dialogical, deeply dialogical interaction where two entities, teacher and student, where these two entities, teacher and student, are completely connected, and they're able to transmit these ideas as they're going forward. This is what is, again, completely missing from online education. So the question begins, obviously, how do we fix this, right? How do we make online education truly dialogical? Well, in my opinion, the answer lies in really looking at the successful interactions that you, the teacher, have with the students that you are looking at. And through these successful interactions, we have to work our way through seeing what really works and then bringing in the technology to see what works, right? And it might seem really hard because technology like AI, ML, and NLP, right, artificial intelligence, is new, it's emerging. And so, because it's emerging, it might seem that it won't work, but it actually does. We actually don't need the emerging technology, we can use the existing technology. How do I know? Because for the past 2 years, that's what I've been working on, right? And the beta for that is actually launching in less than a month, so that's kind of cool. So, okay. Now, this might seem a little bit hard to program, and we're going to come back to that in just a little bit. But let's look at a couple of features that you need in an actual online education platform that would really work. The first thing that you need in there are video questions that pop up during the video. And they pop up unexpectedly. And when they pop up unexpectedly, they're asked out loud and they're answered out loud. Okay, so why do we do that? Well, there are a lot of students here. Students zone out in classes, right? Which is why just watching a video isn't enough. And so what does a good teacher do when they see that you're zoning out? They ask you a question, assuming that obviously you're comfortable being put on the spot, and they'll do it when it's unexpected to promote partial reinforcement, which is just teaching and which is just asking you and rewarding you as you're going through the process, right? And they do it at random so that, again, you're always on your toes. A platform could do something very similar, right? How does it do that? It asks you a question right after the concept ends, and when it does that, it fosters immediacy. You have to immediately answer the question. You can't move forward without it. And when you foster the immediacy, and at the same time, because you're saying it out loud, you also have auditory consolidation, which means when you hear yourself say it, you actually remember it better. So that's the first part. The second part is mastery-focused, being very mastery-focused. And so with mastery orientation, the idea is very simple. When we were actually making this portal, we didn't know this, but it turns out that study kind of validated what we were doing. Compared to just learning, mastery learning is actually much, much, much better. It's far superior. And so, if a portal can incorporate questions that you have to get right, that helps you being mastered in whatever you're doing. You can't move on again to the next question. So that's the second part. What else can we do? The third part is having diverse, adaptive, you-tailored explanations, having that personalization in there. How do we do that? Here's what we do. Whenever you see a teacher teaching, what you do is you see that whenever a teacher is teaching and they see that you're actually messing up something, they don't just move on. They actually stop over there and they re-explain it to you. They give you analogies. They give you, on top of those analogies, they will have a dialogue with you, right? They'll maybe even draw it out. And so it turns out we can actually do that on an online platform as well. Even though this isn't live, this is a pre-recorded video. How? Because let's say you get a concept or a question wrong the first time, right? You answer it, you got it wrong. What would the platform do? Literally, it'll just stop, not let you move forward. It'll take you and put you back to the segment of the video that you were listening to and you got right, that specific concept. Let's say you went through it again and you got it wrong again. What do you do at that point? At that point, what you can have is pre-recorded video segments that are explanations, analogies, just the things that we talked about, except they're much, much more than that. These explanations can also be very specific to the people who are watching it. Let's say you learn through, a specific person learns through auditory things, then that example is very auditory. Let's say you're a native Urdu speaker or native Hindi speaker or something else, right? Native Chinese speaker. Then you have that specific ESL part where the explanation is actually in your native language. All you need to do is just add there what your secondary language is, right? On top of that, what else can we do? Again, when you're thrown back at the concept, you can slow down your speech, you can have simpler words, you can have different tones. And so based off of that, again, you keep going on, and you, again, can't go to the next concept until you get it right. Is that hard? Turns out, no. YouTube already does that when it's recommending videos based on your past history, right? So we can, again, do the same thing here, have your past performance, and then that learning style, and using that to recommend those videos to see where we're going. So that's number 3. What else can we do? Let's jump into a couple of other things. These are, for the most part, actually there's one more that's actually really, really nice. You're gonna like this one. So, you can also have multilingual attention grabbers and explainers, right? And what that means is this. If, again, let's say, you're, let's say, an ESL student or your native tongue is something else, right? What's gonna happen at this point is, when, let's say, you're not paying attention and the platform detects it, how does it detect it? Well, if you're looking away from the screen too often, or you're taking too long to answer questions, or you are pausing the video too often, what is it going to do? It's going to stop and toss a "Abbe yaar masla kya hai?" which literally translates to, "Hey man, what's going on?" Right? In fact, it can actually go further. I don't know if anybody has played Hercules. It's like a really old game, right? And so in Hercules, when Hercules gets something wrong, right? The game kind of tells you, rule number 95, kid, concentrate, right? Rule number 96, aim. And so you can have a very similar concept here, because games have already have been doing that, and we can use that to interact more students. And this way, the platform is actually or literally speaking your language, which helps you connect. So far, these things that we've seen, they discuss what we have to do during the coursework as you're going through it, right? How do you engage students, and how do you create these student-student or student-teacher relationship outside of that? 3 very simple things. 1, engaging or more so encouraging students when they're doing bad. Think about it. Nobody does that. If you're doing bad, all you need is a simple pre-recorded video that's from the instructor that says, hey, it's completely okay. I was stuck at this concept too when I did it the first time. Or keep going, keep pushing, right? You're almost there, don't stop. Just having those little things really helps the student connect with your instructor. What else? Well, you could actually have some really cool competition in there, right? And sort of that sort of builds a relationship with the portal as well. How does that work? Let's say somebody is behind, right? You're actually behind and your friend is actually doing a lot of work. What are they gonna say? They're gonna say, hey Sohaib is actually getting ahead. Here's what you need to do to catch him. And if, let's say, you're ahead of your friend, what is it gonna say? Hey, Sohaib is behind, go help him. You know what I mean? On top of that, we can actually include one more thing. And this is done by nobody so far, and that's where I'm gonna end my talk. Platforms need to look at your life more so, as well as the coursework. They both are equal, they're part of your life. You need to all your transcripts and resumes and everything is already out there. All you need to do is upload them. It's very simple to chart your career and have a Google Maps-esque representation of what your first year, the next 5 year, and your long-term career is gonna look like. How do you go from point A to point B, right? And so the moment you have that idea of that this platform is helping you with your career, and then on top of that, if let's say you're looking for a specific job and let's say you're heading towards med school, right? It doesn't just give you a job, but at the same time, it gives you a job in healthcare that pays you more than what you already do, then you're connected to this platform. Interactivity and engagement completely go up. So, at this point, I would like to end with this. Let's interface the facts. Get it? Interface. We need just a little bit of dialogue to have a whole lot of resonance. Thank you.